beer, Taino Light Lager has a crisp, refreshing Caribbean-style flavor. Boricua Craft Ale, full-bodied flavor for the true beer drinker. Stop drinking beer water. Taino Craft Light Lager and Boricua Strong Craft Ale. Feel the rhythm and come up to craft beer. Hi, I'm Danny Ramos and welcome to Hispanic Speak Out. We're over at Valencia College today and we're going to have a little discussion with our local congressman, Congressman Soto. How are you, Darren? How's it going?
Thanks for having me, Danny.
I was going crazy with the parking lot here. I've never been in the Osceola campus. It is crazy. So many cars. There's so many students.
Well, the good news is with this being one of the most diverse campuses in all of Florida, think about how many communities of color, young people are coming here, from the Hispanic community, from the African American community, Asian community, and others. So it just shows that we're having great interest in higher education.
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick because I know you're limited on time. You have a panel to go to. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with Iran. You're a U.S. Congressman. Of course, you're in the loop there, and I know that you were in the Far East recently. What is going on, to the best of your knowledge, with the Iranian situation that's happening?
Well, first, we know that Saudi Arabian oil refineries were viciously attacked, and most fingers point towards Iran being the culprit of it. Of course, this is part of a long line of hostilities, including commandeering vessels in the Persian Gulf and blocking illegal Iranian oil from coming to sales in other countries. The United States got out of the Iran deal because of Iran's bad faith in enriching uranium and threatening other countries with attacks, including our brothers and sisters in Israel. And there's even been, we shot down one of their drones, they shot down one of ours, so it's been continuing hostilities. I had the opportunity to spend Independence Day with our troops in Qatar, about 50 or so miles away from Iran, or as they put it, 3 minutes away from a missile attack. We had young people from Kissimmee, from East Orlando, from Polk County, from Brevard County serving over there, and I could tell you, we are in a defensive posture and ready to take on whatever comes at us and our allies, but we also don't want to escalate arms because no one wants a war with Iran. We don't need any more wars in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. How's the situation, what's your view on the situation with the presidential campaign? Who do you think is the leader right now out of the people that are running? Do you support or are you leaning towards any of those candidates? Or do you think someone is going to come out of the blue who's just waiting for them to fight each other and knock each other off to jump in last minute?
So first, the leaders have come into focus. You have Vice President Biden, you have Senator Elizabeth Warren, Senator Bernie Sanders, who have been leading in a lot of the latest polls. All of them are in their 70s, so that's pretty fascinating. I think one of the issues that comes up is that most of the voters I talk to, if they're on the Democratic side or they're independents that don't support President Trump, is who can beat Trump? Mm-hmm. And I think that has a lot to do with it. But there's some other exciting candidates on the stage that you don't know between now and Iowa and beyond what's going to happen. Senator Cory Booker's done a great job. We've seen Mayor Pete Buttigieg have a refreshing sort of perspective on these things. Julian Castro has mounted an aggressive campaign, and obviously the only Hispanic on the stage, Beto O'Rourke, has really taken flight again after this terrible tragedy in El Paso. And then Kamala Harris kind of has this broad coalition that she could probably pull forward. So it'll be interesting to see. I haven't endorsed, nor do I plan on endorsing for the foreseeable future. Central Florida is key for the general election, so my goal is to make sure we have an inclusive and open primary. That was the big problem last time when it was a coordination of Hillary Clinton, who I supported. But we need to make sure that all voters feel like their voices are up there on stage, and slowly but surely we'll narrow down the field. We went from 20 to 10 already, so we're seeing the field continue to come into focus over the next couple of months.
Do you think Andrew Cuomo is a consideration?
I have a couple of dark horses like him, like Tom Steyer, billionaire out of California. You have Steve Bullock, governor out of Montana. But if you're not on the stage, you're not in the conversation. The only person I could see come out of the woodwork to unify everybody who hasn't run and doesn't look like she's going to run is Michelle Obama.
Well, I don't think she's going to do it.
I don't think she's going to do it. But short of her, I would be amazed if anybody came out of the woodwork. As late as Trump filed for president, it was still July, a year before the election year. So we're already past that deadline. So it would really take something.
Yeah. Let's jump to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is obviously a major interest to us in the state of Florida. It's a major population that's bilingual in their citizens and their voters. Bring us up to date on what's going on with Puerto Rico statehood and with the situation of the federal government aiding Puerto Rico, etc.
So we're already 2 years past Hurricane Maria, yet nearly half of the $43 billion we allocated has gone on the island. That's it. So we see a real slow roll of the funding that's needed to rebuild Puerto Rico by the Trump administration, including the $2 billion that they're looking to do grid restoration and boost renewables, including over $10 billion in HUD funds to restore many different facilities and businesses and government agencies and other and homes. And then on top of that, you have this $402 million that President Trump is heisting from the military construction budget to try to build his border wall. So, the money continues to be held up, and it's a real tragedy because the island is putting a lot of these things on hold. Some positive things that are going on. My bill to modernize and fix their Medicaid program finally passed through committee unanimously with bipartisan support. Congressman Bilirakis, a Republican out of the Tampa Bay area, is my co-introducer and fellow member on the committee. It would raise Puerto Rico's Medicaid budget from $375 million to $3 billion a year. A huge increase, but really would treat them like states, like a state would. We saw the history of it is they went into debt trying to prop up their Medicaid program. Hospitals went in disrepair. Doctors left. And when Hurricane Maria hit, we had the largest death toll in modern history for a natural disaster. So we know we have to shore up that healthcare system for the health of the 3.2 million people on the island. And lastly, we expect to have a hearing late September, if not early October, on the status issue. As you may know, I have a bill to make Puerto Rico a state after 2 plebiscites. This 2-year term, realistic goals are to educate the new Congress, but you never know if we could get a vote or not. Obviously, we'll be pushing for it, but we also anticipate that there'll be a plebiscite in 2020 that'll fix a lot of the complaints that people have had about the last 2 plebiscites. One, that the first plebiscite was confusing. This will be simply a statehood yes or no question. Very simple. 2, there wasn't a lot of turnout in the last plebiscite, the second one, 19%. This is going to be in a general election, so there's going to be huge turnout. And, my position has always been self-determination. So if they vote yes, I will continue to support statehood. If they don't, the people have spoken. We'll monitor future elections on that. But obviously, if they had 2 U.S. senators and 4 members of Congress, they'd be treated a lot better by the U.S. government than they are right now.
Okay. There is a large homelessness problem in Central Florida, which does affect your district.
Sure.
You're one of the key districts in Central Florida. What's the role of the federal government in solving that?
Sure. So I hear the same 3 issues over and over in my district, in addition to national issues like healthcare, immigration, and environment. Higher paying jobs, traffic, and affordable housing and combating homelessness. Now, 2 of those are very related. If you have higher paying jobs, then it helps with people being able to afford housing. And we're working a lot on tech issues and the like. On housing, the federal government has several rules, and mostly it's a funding posture. So first, in our last budget, we increased the home program by 50%. That is a program that helps local governments buy land for affordable housing. So the 300 units that just came in online in Osceola County, 100 by the city of Kissimmee, 200 by Osceola County, they use the home funding to purchase that land. And then they use ship and sale funding, which comes from document stamp tax from real estate transactions to build the housing. They went along who were the first 300 people on the Section 8 housing list. The other area is Section 8. And one of the reforms we're working on is to prioritize local residents more. We have a lot of folks moving in who are taking their vouchers from other states, but the problem is increasing our list here in Central Florida. So if you lived here 3-4 years, you've been waiting on Section 8, and someone comes from another state, right now they've been given priority, but it's really hurting residents, not even long-term residents, just people who are on the list. In addition, we have pushes by Orange County to increase workforce housing. So one of the areas we're really working on it is with Disney and with Universal. We know that their wages are going up, but they're not quite there yet. We want to get them to $15 an hour. Disney's on track and Universal is on track, but that's not here yet. So for instance, when Universal is putting forward their Epic Universe, the huge new park, one of the things I asked them to do was make sure to invest and keep your parks up so people want to come here. And 2, affordable housing. We need workforce housing. So our goal is to have them work on workforce housing for their own employees, because many of them are folks working at Disney, Universal, or SeaWorld or other areas. Also made the same ask to Disney as well. You know, imagine that they have put together with their construction crews, which they have working all the time, hundreds of new units that their employees who may not be able to afford housing otherwise can rent at a subsidized rate. That would be a big dent. You know, it's always about improving the situation. There's always going to be a difficulty because Central Florida is popular now. So even in a place like Kissimmee, where the rent was like $800 10 years ago, now it's $1,500 for a 1-bedroom and $2,000 for a 2-bedroom. The word is out. It's a popular area to live, so we're facing population pressures. One of the other things that have helped out is we have families, multi-generational families, particularly in the Hispanic community, living together now. It's not unusual to have a 2,000, 2,500 square foot house in Point Siena or in East Orlando or in Meadowwoods or some area where you have abuela and you have your mom and dad, you have los hijos or su primos, your cousins living there. And that's something common in Puerto Rico, and I expect you'll see that more and more common here as people stay and save up money so that they could eventually buy real estate themselves. Heck,
Well,
I did the same
that's a cultural
thing.
issue. It's a cultural
It
thing.
is.
And it's now practical because of the high rents.
So I had to do the same thing, so I know by experience. After 7.5 years of living on my own after high school, I came back home to live with my parents while I was studying for the Florida bar. And then after that, I probably lived altogether about 10 months, almost a year with my parents. But after I passed the Florida bar, I started saving up money and I left and bought my own house. And ever since then, I've been able to obviously control my destiny with regard to real estate. And I was 25, 26 at the time, ended up buying real estate at 27. So I think this is going to be more and more common. But one of the things is the secret's out. This is a popular place to live. So while we continue to work on workforce housing, and then of course first-time home buyer programs through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are federal programs. So as opposed to the 10-20% that you normally have to put down, a first-time home buyer can put 3 to 5% down for that first house. That could really help overcome that hurdle.
One last question. We only have a couple minutes. $15 an hour. Do you think organizations like McDonald's are going to use technology and implement technology to replace workers because of the $15 salary?
So modernization and mechanization, automation rather, happens no matter what. I don't think wage increases increase that a lot as just the fact that they're going to continue to advance their technology, but in places like in the district already that have automated ordering, they also have people who now serve you and bring servers who bring the food to the table.
That's part of the competition.
So you're seeing about the same amount of people continue to be hired. There's still people cooking, there's still people managing and running the register, and there may be less people running the register now, but now you have people who are actually bringing your meal to the table. That's something you could see at a McDonald's in Buenaventura Lakes.
Yeah.
I experienced it myself for the first time a few months ago and was surprised, pleasantly surprised by it. So I think when we look at Oregon, when we look at New York, when we look at other areas, they didn't have this huge inflation and they didn't have this huge job loss. Now things happen over time, and then that's why we need to continue to educate our population here, which is why we have a very flexible system to give people that opportunity, whether it's apprenticeships with unions, whether it's industry certifications you could get here at Valentia College, or the fact that if you graduate from high school or just get your GED, you're automatically admitted to Valencia. And if you pass here, you're automatically admitted to UCF. So whether you're 18, 28, 38, or 58 or beyond, you can retool. And that's what we encourage our folks to do, particularly in STEM, because that's where a lot of the new higher paying jobs are coming, in tech, commercial space flight, in aerospace, and other areas.
Okay. Well, we ran out of time, and I know you have to go to a panel. Okay?
You bet.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Danny.
Okay, we'll see you next month. We're trying
Sounds
to get
great.
to you every month, to get news of what's going on and to be current with the district.
We'll do our best.
Thanks a lot, and we'll be right back.
Hola Florida, introducing Boricua Beer and Taino Light Beer. Boricua and Taino Light are crafted beers that are rich in flavors and brewed right here in Florida. Taino beer has a crisp, refreshing Caribbean flavor style when enjoyed chilled. Boricua beer is a craft ale with full body flavor that is a beer drinker's beer. Boricua and Taino Light Beers. Enjoy responsibly.
Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to Hispanic Speak Out. We've been on the air for 15 years in Central Florida, bringing you interesting issues of concern to the Hispanic community throughout the five-county area. We have an interesting interview today with a gentleman called Marco Lopez. Marco Lopez is a deputy sheriff in Osceola County, and he has been fired by Sheriff Gibson. Why? Because he decided to run for office. How you doing, Marco?
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me on the show.
Okay, so you got canned.
Yeah, I guess we could put it that way.
So how did you get the news? I mean, give me a little background. What did you do? You announced that you were running. What?
On the 16th, I went and registered to run for Osceola County Sheriff's Office down at the election center. And Friday, I worked normal all day long. We were actually working on a barricaded subject in Point Siena. After the incident was over, I get a call from the sergeant that says, hey, you need to come to the station. They need to speak with you. And that was pretty much it.
And what did the sergeant tell you?
She had said that they wanted to speak to me upstairs. It was above her pay grade. She didn't know what it was about.
Okay. And you went upstairs, and what happened exactly? Take us through.
Okay, I pretty much go upstairs, and we have Russell Gibson's sitting at a desk, and we have the attorney over here.
For Gibson?
Yes.
Oh, for the sheriff's office.
For the sheriff's office. They basically had, the attorney was holding two packets, and he says, we need your resignation. And I said, why? He says, because you don't have constitutional rights to run against a seated sheriff who's seeking re-election. I said, that's not true. We all have constitutional rights. And and he says, well, we have case law proving otherwise. So if you don't resign, we're not going to pay your 300 hours that you have accumulated in your bank, and you're going to be terminated. We're going to terminate your employment.
Anyway, so in other words, they said to you that either if you walk out, we'll pay you what's due to you.
Yes.
And if you try to fight it, they're going to beat you for the money.
That's right.
Okay? That's interesting little coercion there, Well, so when you got up from the table, you just take me through. You go downstairs, you clean out what happened?
No, I just basically take off the gun belt. They take the gun belt, and one of the captains was there, and he drove me to the house. And then later on, I come back and turn in all my equipment.
All right.
That's pretty much it.
Okay, and when you decided to run for office, why did you decide to run for office? I mean, when somebody runs for office, it's because they think that they can do a job better in some areas. Why are you running for office?
Well, first of all, ever since he's taken office, we went from 24 deputies short. We're almost 60 deputies short. Poor leadership, poor administrators.
When you say the deputies, the number of deputies went down, was that cost cutting?
Nope. A lot of them are finding homes in Orange County, OPD. They're a little bit of better pay raise. Also, morale has a lot to do with it.
All right. So how many deputy sheriffs are Hispanic and Puerto Rican there?
I believe like the last numbers, it was 4% black, 24% Hispanic, and about 74% white. That's total employees, and 1% other. And you're talking about a community that's almost 70% minority based.
Yeah.
So it should be the other way around actually in the department.
Right, right. What areas do you see that the Sheriff's Department has been lacking in?
Recruiting.
Okay.
They talk about all this recruiting, but they're not recruiting. Because obviously if they were recruiting professionally or adequately, they would be bringing in the right number of people in, and our retention rate would go up. You know, from start to finish, if we sponsor a deputy through the academy, it's about $140,000 up to their first year once they're on the road. So now we're losing them right after they meet their probationary status, and they'll go to Orange County, the surrounding agencies for a little bit more money, and they're just not happy because the opportunities are just not there. We're so short. You know, we're running call to call to call to call because our recruiting process is horrible.
Has crime been going up in Osceola County or down?
Yes, it's going up.
In what areas?
We've seen an increase in murders, an increase in property crimes. Violent crimes have gone up.
Do you think that this termination is racially sensitive? Or
Of course.
do you think it's... Well,
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
One, he knows that I represent diversity. He knows that my platform when I ran previously was about diversifying the administration, finding those qualified community people, and bringing them on board to represent the Sheriff's Department so we can start looking like the people we serve. And he knows that I have a large Hispanic following and they believe in my ideas.
Okay. Have you spoken to other Hispanic deputies within the department off the record and how they feel about it?
They're upset that he terminated me.
Yeah.
Many, actually, not even just the Hispanic deputies. I've had hundreds of deputies reach out to me. They do not agree with what he did. They said there was other ways he could have done it. You know, first of all, the Florida state statute to resign to run law, 99.1 subsection 5 clearly states, upon qualifying, if he seeks re-election, I must resign. That would be of the qualifying year, which is June of 2020. He went ahead and terminated based on case laws. And one of them's like from Georgia.
So that's a case law you had from 1983 and a case law that you had from 1997.
Yep.
Well, 83 runs that goes back to a bad time in the South.
Exactly.
You know, and 97 was borderline because in 97, I remember I came here in 97 and I had Hispanic Achievers as my website on the bumper of the car. And
Your car was probably getting keyed.
Yeah, it actually was keyed. But a guy rolls down his window and tells me to go back to where I came from.
Hey, you know, it's an
And that was
interest.
in 97. And that was in 97 when I had just gotten here.
The South is notoriously for not being minority friendly.
Yeah.
And when you have a sheriff that actually puts out an inter-office memo, such an unprofessional format for a law enforcement officer that has been dedicated service for almost 18 years in this community, never been in trouble, not a problematic employee, no constitutional rights. That's a strong message because right now, look at the incidents that we've been having. The shooting with where the Sheriff Israel was terminated. They're saying that he doesn't have, the deputy that was arrested doesn't have constitutional rights to act. So do we or don't we? You know, I think that's a strong message, and it's a bad message to send out to law enforcement because if we don't start taking care of the police in America, who is going to protect us?
I see in this memo, I'm going to read this memo, okay, because everybody, this is the memo that he received, Marco received. So I'm just going to read it. It's dated 5/17/2019. It's addressed to Marco Lopez from Sheriff Russell Gibson, re-termination. Since you filed to run for sheriff of Osceola County in 2020 election, I am terminating your employment with the Osceola County Sheriff's Department effective today. As you can see from the 3 cases you were given, you don't have the constitutional right to run against a sitting sheriff who filed for re-election. Again, the 3 cases were very, very old cases, and one was not even in the state of Florida. There was a 1997 case, a 1983 case, and a 2000, I believe, in 10 or 12 case. So these are old cases, and as everybody knows, society changes, particularly today, very, very rapidly. requirements, the needs of a society, and the laws that affect those people change radically. I think that we're in a society in Central Florida where the changing demographic is moving so quickly that the old guard is having difficulty with the new people coming in. I mean, we've had, the Maria situation. Hurricane Maria has brought hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans into Central Florida. They're citizens of the United States and they can vote. That has scared many politicians.
Yes, it has.
And maybe it's scared Gibson as well, because everybody knows Osceola has a very dominant Hispanic population. So
Yes.
if a Hispanic running for sheriff actually has a very good chance of winning. All right, let me continue with this. During our meeting today, you were given an opportunity to review case law and understand that that as sheriff, I must have the confidence that you will represent me as a deputy sheriff, and your actions have made it abundantly clear that I cannot. I have a little bit of sensitivity about that statement because I believe that deputy sheriff does not represent, quote, me. He represents the community. He represents the police department, not necessarily the me, especially if the me is running for office, because then it's a personal agenda. When you have a political situation, which you seem to crack into right now,
Yes.
where you are upsetting the apple cart because he is now a politician, okay? And you're setting up the apple cart, and he's firing you because you're running for office. So anyway, let me read the rest. Sheriff, and your actions have made it abundantly clear that I cannot. This administrative action terminating your employment is not based upon any disciplinary issue, but only as to you filing to run for the office I currently hold. It just sits me wrong, because, Puerto Ricans and Hispanics have been discriminated against for a very, very long time. And one of the tools that people have used against them is the paycheck.
Yes.
You do this, you get out of line, you lose your paycheck.
Yep.
And this has that kind of touch to it. Some people may say it's really, really blatant.
Well, you think about it. I've been employed there for 3 sheriffs. 1, 2, 3. And I've served the community loyally for 3 different administrations, because my loyalty ultimately lies to the people of Osceola County, the taxpayer. He's an elected official. I am an employee of the county. My loyalty is always going to remain to the people and to the Constitution of the United States. That's the loyalty you must have, is for the people of the community. When you lose that sense of loyalty...
Well, not to say that, and I'm just painting a scenario that's not true, but it's a what if.
Mm-hmm.
What if you have a sheriff that gets intoxicated on the job, and he gets intoxicated on the job, or he's a habitual drinker, or that he's a wife abuser, or now where does that loyalty stop by requirement? You know what I mean?
It's an integrity issue.
It's an integrity issue, an ethical issue.
Yes.
And it's also to me, it's a basic civil rights issue, because any citizen in the United States has the right to run for office without being penalized.
Exactly. And especially 22-year military veteran, honorable discharge, Iraqi war vet, Operation Iraqi Freedom. These are the kind of things that I fought for you to be able to express yourself the way you want, or any American to express themselves the way they want. But when you're working for the law enforcement department that you're supposed to protect constitutional rights, there is an issue here.
Yeah. Well, I think there is an issue here, and it's also, in the society that we now live in, it depends if you sue, what judge you go in front of.
Exactly.
Because Central Florida is a very small community, and judges know lawyers and judges know law enforcement. It's a grouping.
Yes.
And if you are not inside that grouping, you're really, really fighting a monster.
Exactly.
That's predetermined. I mean, these people have dinner together, they drink together, they survive together. Puerto Ricans come in all of a sudden, change the dynamic of a community, and it gets those ties of those people that are not open to change stronger. Yes. Stronger.
Well, you know what it is? To me, this is a typical example of a Gestapo-style tactic. You're either with me or against me. I don't need your services. He puts himself before the community. We're short 60 officers. we're short 60 officers that should be bilingual. So now he goes ahead and terminates a good officer who's never had any disciplinary, who's trilingual, because he puts himself ahead of everything, the community, and making an arrogant type judgment like that.